How y'all doing? I'm Paul Ryan, your host of the Across the Cowboys podcast. This podcast is part of the Across the Board Sports podcast family. I'd like to give a big shout out to our listeners. If you're new to the show, thank you for joining us. And to our regular listeners, welcome back. With me, as always, is my co-host, the greatest co-host in the world, Mike the Pig Crum. Mike, how are you?
I just noticed something. Hold on. We ain't doing this. We ain't doing this on the Cowboys podcast. This is my friend's hat that I play basketball with, and he left it here. Get out of here.
Oh, wow. Mike's switching sides. Holy cow.
Shouldn't have left your hat, bro. Remember it next time.
You are not off to a strong week, Mike.
No, but at least it's gone. I saw it in the background. I go, oh, hell no. We ain't having that Niners hat sitting over my head. And no. Get it out.
Well, Mike, let's get after it, man. Where can we find you on Twitter, sir?
At CD Piglet, guys. Nice and easy.
Guys, I'm Paul Ryan. You can find me on Twitter at Paul_Ryan15. Here we are with season 2 and episode 1 of Mike and I's series, Building the Cowboys. This series is going to be about building the Cowboys through the 2022 draft. And Mike and I thought it would be cool to have people we interact with on Twitter who are not only Cowboys fans, but also fans of college football and the NFL draft to come on the show and do a mock draft. We do have a couple of rules for the mock draft. 1, no trade backs. 2, we're only going to do 5 rounds only. And before we get started, I'd like to introduce our guest tonight, Mr. Zach Young. Zach, how are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
Doing well, man. Thank you, Zach. And Zach, where can the people find you on Twitter?
At ZGYoung9. Pretty basic there, but that's me. You can find me there.
Yes, sir. Okay, so Zach, let me ask you, what site did you use for this mock draft?
I use the Draft Network. I use all kinds of mocks there, PFF, PFN, you name it. But for this exercise, we did the Draft Network, which actually worked out fine. We've got some needs met, I think, and we'll see what you guys think.
Yeah, I also like the Draft Network as well because it's easy to share with people and you can see like every round, every pick, and everything like that. I'm not sure if all the other sites offer that. Yeah,
I agree. I like that save function too, so I can compare what I did in February to what I did in April and see how different they are.
Absolutely. Well, Zach, let's get out. Let's go ahead and discuss it. Talk to us about your first round pick.
Sure thing. Since I can't trade back there, I stuck at 24, and it may be kind of boring to a lot of folks there, but I'm looking at our roster right now at left guard, and there's a big glaring hole we got right now after Connor Williams' departure. So I sat there, I was weighing my options, and I guess if you want to compare who was gone and who was left available there, a lot of people I know are big fans of Zion Johnson. He was already gone. Tyler Linderbaum, who's already gone too. So those folks want to get the center of the last 5 years. He was already off the board. George Karlaftis, he was off the board too. Somebody who I've been watching closely there, but they're all gone. So I took Kenyon Green, the guard out of Texas A&M. I was like, perfect storm there of need and value in my opinion. You got a guy who's played left guard, left tackle, right tackle, all in 2021. In 2020, played a lot of left guard there. Got 34 1/8-inch arms, so I think he meets our size requirements there for interior lineman. His PFF grade was 79.8 last year, not too bad. I mean, I don't know if you guys follow PFF grades a lot there, but I kind of look at that and RES, and that's pretty popular now for athleticism. But for my notes on him, I was watching a little bit on there. I put down that if he can clean up some tendencies to lunging guys, he's got a real solid lower half there. So I think that when he gets into a NFL strength program, he can build up his upper half to match that lower half. He sinks real low in his sets. And I think for a young guy, I think he's only, 20 years old? He's only 21 years old, I think, until this year. So at 24, I'm all for addressing the need and getting a young guy who only I think will develop further and kind of build back that line that we once had. So Kenyon Green, that was my pick at 24.
Mike, what are your thoughts on that pick?
My second favorite, my 2 top picks that I would like Dallas to get. The dream scenario is if Jermaine Johnson would fall. He's not going to.
Yeah.
He's not. That position is too necessary in the league. Left guard, Kenyon Green is my second. So I'm going to start right away without Kenyon Green. Most of us know. We love Kenyon Green. People watching for draft stuff know who Kenyon Green is, know what we're doing. Let's get into a battle, though. If all 3 of Tyler Linderbaum, Kenyon Green, and Zion Johnson are there, who are you picking, Zach, and why?
Ooh, if all 3 are still available, I'm sticking with Green, to be honest. Like Zion, I like a lot. I like him a lot. He's a solid player. I think that when he latches on to you, you're latched on. You're not getting past him. But I think if you guys follow the draft show, I'm sure you do, their podcast stuff. I think Jeff and those guys have really mentioned too that his stance is kind of awkward. It's kind of bow-legged in his stance. So I think just judging by who we got for our offensive line coach, I think he'd rather take a guy who's younger and doesn't have issues that need to be addressed right out of the gate, maybe, in his stance. And then Linderbaum, I love him. I mean, he's a great prospect. Don't get me wrong there. And I think if we were running a pure zone scheme, he would be a perfect fit for that. But I just think that in this case, I'm taking the guy, or we need a player at left guard and a guy who should be a starter for 10 years. I mean, I can't go wrong. It's kind of like pick your ice cream flavor. I know they mention that a lot, but it is. It truly is. Pick whichever flavor you like best there.
I'm right with you. I have my issues with Linderbaum, of course. Like, there's only so much you can do with length, and I feel like Linderbaum is a super B plus already coming out, will be a B plus player, but I don't know if he can, for a first round pick, can he ever get like to another level? No matter how great he becomes, he's only going to have such long arms. He's only going to have so much strength. When he faces Jason Hargrave, what do you want the guy to do? It's just, there's only so much you can do when one guy is just so much physically more built for that interior thing. So it makes it difficult for me. Also, we don't have a left guard. Our center, for all the stuff we gave him crap on, won 12 games snapping the ball to Dak every game. He was there every game. He got better as the year went on. I think he ended the season as our second best lineman. Our tackles were injured. I'm not saying he's better than them. They were compromised, and our left guard just was in and out. They benched him. They brought him back. He had a lot of penalties. I'm a Green guy because we need a power guy. And I have Johnson graded a little bit less than Green, but I love Zion Johnson, and I think he's good. But for what I want on Dallas, give me Green mauling people and just moving people. And you're right. He's such a mauler that he'll get ahead of himself and get over aggressive, and that's when he normally gets beat. Just fix that up, dude, and you got a guy for, like you said, 10 years. So I love the pick.
Well, sticking with getting back to Kenyon Green, or sticking with Kenyon Green, rather. Zach, did you feel that at 24, was that a good value pick? And did you draft the best player available, or did you draft for need?
I actually, I guess to fill you in, there's some guys that are left available, or Nakobe Dean, who I don't think the Cowboys would take there at 24. He's just too small, to be honest. Chris Olave was still there, who I know they like a lot, along with Treylon Burks, and they were both still there. But in my opinion, I like the guys left at receiver in the second round better than I like the guys in the first round. If we flip flopped it, I really go guard and then receiver if I had to. Then hope, I guess, Ingram was there in the second round for me in the second round. That's a guy that I really like, and I think you'd like too, Mike. But I thought that was a better fit. But yeah, and actually, you mentioned the rankings there, or if it was a good value. I pulled up Daniel Jeremiah's top 50, Sports Illustrated's top 100, CBS Sports top 100 big board, PFF's top 150, Pro Football Network's top 50, Dane Brugler's top 100, and the Draft Network's rankings. And so I took 7 sources, and I took the ranking for Kenyon Green from those 7 and averaged it out. And it's funny because it comes out to 24.42. So right where we took him at. So I felt good about that. Not that means anything, but it kind of validated where a lot of guys have him ranked. Because I know you guys have mentioned too before, but this year the different sites are all over the place. I mean, you never know who's on value who at what spot. So that's pretty interesting seeing those rankings kind of differ. But yeah, I feel good about that pick at 24.
So, Zach, I want to ask you, what about Kenyon Green? Did you like more than, I know you touched a little bit on Nakobe Dean there, but what did you like about Kenyon Green more than Nakobe Dean and Daxton Hill, safety out of Michigan?
I love Daxton Hill. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned him. If there was a trade back option here, like if Green was gone, like maybe if Zion Johnson's gone and I wasn't comfortable taking a receiver there in the first round, then he would be a prime trade back target. I think somebody like Kansas City might value him since they've well, I don't know. They signed the guy from Houston. They signed him instead. But I thought he would be a perfect fit for them before that happened. But I think he's a guy who's going to go late first round for sure, just because he is so versatile. He can play slot corner, play free safety, and we definitely, we don't have much depth there, I guess, behind our guys in safety. We got our 3, but that's it. But I'd be comfortable with him in a trade back. I just think in this case, 24 is a little rich, but you're kind of splitting hairs late first round, picking and choosing there.
Mike, of those 3 players, who would you have taken?
Green, and I'll give you another one, which I hate to say this, but because I typically stick to my board, I have Chris Olave ranked higher than Kenyon Green, but I think I take Green because I feel like at 56, if you start to see the wide receivers dwindle, you can use some maneuvering to move up and get one. And I have Green still ranked. Green's tape is like a top 15 player. Like his tape's really good. Then he came into the combine and everybody compared him to the other first round guys, Zion Johnson. They're like, well, look at how, Zion Johnson's close to a first round and look at how he, performed in all this, and all the, what would you call it? The draft buildup stuff where the 40 times and all that. And so people kind of put them closer together than I really had them. I thought tape-wise, Green was a clear 1, and Zion Johnson was a 1-2 for me. And then Zion Johnson's combine brought him into a 1. But on tape, I just thought Green was better. So I look at it as, would I rather get Green, the guard I know is going to be good, and then, Olave is a good receiver. He's a 1, but he's not like – he isn't so much better than Pickens that I'm like, oh man, I got to get Olave because if Pickens is there at 56, that's a big drop off. Where I feel like compared to Green to Kennard, I don't think Ingram will make it to 56, but Kennard, the kid from Georgia, Sawyer,
yeah.
I think they're more of a drop off from Green than Olave is to say a Pickens. So I wouldn't be going by my board, but I think I would talk myself into taking Green. And if I look down in the future and said, I should have went, if we get to the second round and Pickens and them are gone and Kennard's sitting there, maybe I go, damn, I missed out on the player I thought was better and I could have had a guard. And now, maybe that's a bad strategy, but that's how I feel about Green. So I probably would stick with Green.
I hear you there. You can't be mad at that. I think it's safe to say we know that the Cowboys would realistically draft Kenyon Green in the first, knowing their history with taking offensive linemen in the first round. So we'll move on to your second round pick here, Zach. Talk to us a little bit about him.
Sure thing. I think Mike was reading my mind there because I am a huge George Pickens fan. I know he's a very really wiry, thin frame guy, but I think in this offense, he would fit exactly what the Cowboys like in an X receiver. 6'3", 195 pounds. Again, only 21 years old. His RES was a 9.33 because I think he ran, a 4.47 at the combine, which I'll take. He's got 32 and 3/8-inch arms, which is, I'm telling you, he's exactly what we want on the outside. That would allow CeeDee Lamb to play more in the slot, which I think where he excels at the most. So when Gallup comes back, if you're telling me we had Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and Pickens out there as our top 3, little James Washington mixed in with the 4, I'm all for it. But I guess if you're going to explain too who I picked him over there, I was looking at edge rushers. I was like, okay, let's see what we got available. Maybe some linebackers. I think me and you might both were looking for a linebacker earlier than to say the Cowboys might, because what they're saying there with our 30 visits too, was they're not really too keen on a lot of the early linebackers. But Boyd Mafe, he was gone. Quay Walker is already gone. Who's a guy that I really love. I think you love too, Mike. I think the Cowboys like him too. He's a 30 visit. David Ajabo was gone. Bernard Raymond, he was gone. Brisker was gone. Sky Moore was gone. So Jeff Kavanaugh will be pretty sad about that there. But the guys who were left were DeMarvin Leal, John Mechie, and Travis Jones, who I love Travis Jones too, but I started weighing my options. I was like, okay, should I fill that one tech role early, or should I go ahead and get that receiver who might come in handy in case CeeDee Lamb gets really expensive in a few years? So I took Pickens, and I'm not looking back. I think he's a great fit there. At 56 especially, because I've got him personally ranked in the 40s. So if I can land him that late, I'm running to the podium.
You mentioned the value of Pickens there in the second round, but you also touched on CeeDee Lamb. Maybe his price is going to increase up now that he's looking to be the wide receiver one here in Dallas, and we know what those guys are getting paid these days. Do you feel like you drafted the best player available, or were you kind of drafting for future need?
I think a little bit of both. I like Matthew too. He's also coming off an injury. I know Pickens, he tore his ACL also in spring of 2021, so there's always a little injury risk there. But I think nowadays I'm more comfortable with an ACL than I am, say, an Achilles or something like that. But Leal, to me, I know I mentioned him. He was still available. He's a tweener. I know the Cowboys brought him in, but I think they're trying to figure him out, really. I think if this is the third round, sure, sign me up. But we've got a bunch of 3 techs, not many 1 techs, and I know you don't draft or need, but I'm just trying to figure out where he'd fit at when we already got Hill, Gallimore, etc. in there. And I don't know. I like Mechie too, but I've got Mechie as a grade as a 2-3. I've got Pickens as a solid 2, so I'm taking that 2 on my board all day.
So was it, you touched on DeMarvin Leal there being a tweener, and I know John Mechie's coming off the injury. Is that why you took George Pickens over John Mechie?
Yeah, and I just think you really can't go wrong with either one, but I've just been a big fan of Pickens here for a couple of years. I think when he was a freshman, he had a lot of scouts drooling over his potential. And you watch even some of his catches there, his highlight really, even in practice, snagging those one-handed balls. So I just think that, he reminds me a lot of A.J. Green. He's my comp I've got for him, and which is funny because I think he came to Georgia on the A.J. Green scholarship. So it's just a good fit. If you can get A.J. Green in the second round, you better take him. That's my opinion.
Mike, looking at George Pickens, DeMarvin Leal, and John Mechie, I know who you're a big fan of. Of those 3, who would you have taken?
I'll say this, George. I have a sneaking suspicion Pickens is going to go in the first round. I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to go. So if somehow he gets to 56, you're elated that you can get him. He would be my pick also, because I believe that the one thing about having Michael Gallup is he's going to be the X. He beats press coverage better than anyone else we have. He's an excellent go guy. So the worry that you have about Pickens being thin, you don't have to, because he can be a Z, and the Z doesn't have to be on the line of scrimmage. He can be like Cooper. When that was one thing that hurt Cooper last year with Gallup out a lot, is he had to play the press guy. And as good as he is a route runner, he can be pressed. He's just better when he's off the line. Pickens will be the same thing. He'll be really good off the line. And so Lamb in the slot, Pickens off the line as the Z, the tight end and the wide receiver covering up, being on the line with Michael Gallup there. That's a really good lineup. So, yeah, I like Mechie too. I have no problem getting him there if Pickens goes. I think he could play outside because of his speed in the Z spot. As long as Gallup's there to take the press, I think he'll be fine there too. But I think I would go Pickens. Just that's 6'3" size. My dog either loves the pick or doesn't like the pick. Sorry. He's a brat. He's very young, and he likes to bark.
Maybe that's the Bulldogs bark. That's what it was.
Looking at the last few seasons for the Cowboys in 2018, we used a day 2 pick on Michael Gallup. Then we trade a first-round pick, in 2019 for Amari Cooper. So essentially taking a wide receiver day 1 in 2019. Then in 2020, of course, we take CeeDee Lamb with a first-round pick, and then we don't draft one in 2021. Could you realistically see the Cowboys using a day 2 or higher draft pick on another receiver?
Absolutely. I think I didn't get to do it in this mock there, but I think realistically, especially, I'm keeping an eye on those SMU guys, because I think as a later round prospect, especially they're coming in for the Dallas day, both of them, Rob Robertson and Gray, if I'm not mistaken, both of them are visitors. So I could definitely see them taking somebody like that, or a smaller slot guy, something like that, to kind of pair with Pickens and Lamb and Gallup. I think that'd be a good fit. But, I could see them double dipping this year just because they have not taken one here the last couple of drafts.
Mike, what about you? What do you think? Is Pickens somebody you could see Dallas taking early with day 2 draft capital?
They're going to take a wide receiver at 24 or 56 unless they trade for one. They absolutely 100% are. So that's enough. And this draft is going to be a lot about, I believe it's Brian Broaddus who talks about it, draft show again, as Zach talked about. If it ain't helping Dak, I don't want to know about it. And I have a feeling other than maybe one defensive piece, the first 4 or 5 picks could all be offense. Schultz is on a 1-year deal. You have an injured wide receiver core right now, and you lost Amari Cooper. You don't have a left guard. Like, they're going to go offense early in this draft, I believe.
Absolutely. And rightfully so. I think, Dak needs some help for sure. Moving on, Zach, talk to us about your 3rd-round pick.
Sure thing. So now we've got our box check for guard. We've got our receiver there because not just to finish that up, I don't think we're going to go into the season there without taking a receiver early. They're not comfortable, I don't think, with James Washington, especially with Gallup potentially missing the first 2 games of the season. You don't want to roll the dice on that one. So I was looking at our roster again, and I know we signed Fowler. I know we brought back Armstrong. I was like, okay, we still need one more edge there, especially at right defensive end. I was like, we need another linebacker. But in this one, I know the Cowboys, especially Dan Quinn, seems to like him. He worked him out personally. So I was like, Sam Williams, 88. Okay. And I know a lot of people kind of vary on where they have him ranked at it. And he's kind of like a ball of clay. He's a very athletic ball of clay at this point because I think in my notes I put down, the guy ran a 4.46 at 261 pounds. That's pretty impressive. And I think right now he relies definitely on his athleticism. He's more of a speed to power guy, so he wants to rush up fast on you and maybe long arm you. He needs to really diversify his tools of pass rush moves there and learn to hand fight a little better. But I think in the 3rd round, 88, with our needs we've got here, I think he'd be a pretty good pick there. I think, like I said, Quinn feels good about him. They're bringing him in for a 30 visit also, so obviously there is legitimate interest. I think the Cowboys definitely have to do their due diligence on him, though. He had that lawsuit against him, that suspension he had at Ole Miss. But I think if everything checks out with that, then take a flyer on a guy in the 3rd round to come in, compete, and be that right defensive end for you. Maybe some snaps there year 1, but year 2 he might be a starter for you.
Well, Zach, we know how important the edge is. So when you look at Sam Williams here at pick 88, was that good value in your opinion? And again, did you feel like you drafted the best player available, or did you kind of target another need?
He is a tougher eval, I want to say, because he's not somebody I feel comfortable taking at 56 by any means.
Right.
I'm kind of scared the Cowboys may do that if a lot of people's are gone. They may do it, but in my opinion, if you could wait and still snack him at 88, then it's a lot better value for you. I averaged out. I think he only had 4 sites that had him in the top 100, so I could figure out where he had him ranked at. But his average came out to be 86, so I took him at 88. I feel like it's a pretty good pick there, but. Again, anytime you have a guy that can run a 4.6, he's got the speed. He just does not have the ankle flex in the bend. I did notice that. He's more, like I said, speed to power. He's going to try to bulldoze right through you instead of getting around you and bending the edge. But I think Dan Quinn can teach him some stuff. You can't really teach a ton of flexibility, but, get some yoga classes in there and do some Pilates, do something, maybe get a little more flexible and help with that. And I think, you've got plenty of guys that can help him. D-Law, and he's there to help him. And maybe bring in D-Ware, help him learn some moves. But this is a guy that keeps his head on straight. We can check out all that stuff that happened to him at Ole Miss, which, it was dropped, apparently. So I feel good about it. 3rd round, you need some edge guys for sure, because I'm not sold on just Fowler coming in and Armstrong. I like Armstrong too, but I want some competition in there.
Yeah, with that size and speed, it's definitely worth the risk. But, what is it about Sam Williams' edge out of Ole Miss that you like more than Majai Sanders' edge out of Cincinnati and Ed Ingram, another, maybe double dipping at the interior offensive line there out of LSU?
He ain't going to be there. I'll just say that. That Ed Ingram, that's like, so he ain't going to be there. So Sam Williams not bad. That's he'd have to get injured or like smoke something. Ingram will not be there at 88. Sorry, Zach.
I agree. No, I agree 100%. I love Ed Ingram. I think Broadus definitely is a big fan of him. But I don't think he drops to the 3rd. And I think if we went wide receiver 1st round, I'm all for Ed Ingram in the 2nd. But in the 3rd round, I don't think he's there. And just to clear it up there, in case people are wondering who was gone, right before I picked this pick, at 82, Travis Jones finally went, which would be a steal for us in the 3rd. But, yeah, he was gone. Bonito went in at 83, so 2 picks before me. I was kind of disappointed. I like him a lot too. And then Mathis, that big one tech from Alabama, he went right before me as well. So at 85. So at 88, what was left there, I'll take Sam Williams. I think he's a very possible pick for the Cowboys as well.
Well, so Mike, when you look at Majai Sanders and Sam Williams, of the two, who do you like? Since Ed Ingram won't be there at 88.
Yeah, Ed Ingram would be you trade up for him and run to get him from there. Even if you drafted Green, you just get Ingram anyway. So I would rather play in the realism of it. And Sam Williams is realistic at 88. These mocks are going to have things that happen. And it's, we had one where one that I saw where like Jordan Davis, we picked at 56. I'm like, come on, y'all. Like, whatever. But I'm a Sam Williams. I have I have them both as 4th rounders, but Sam Williams is because of his off field. So I have a feeling he might drop. The problem is if you want to get him, you likely have to go at 88. Kind of different players. That's what makes it tough. Let me ask you, Zach, about Sam Williams and Benito, right? So you have Benito, who's your straight get off, bend around the corner, stack the quarterback, strip sack guy, right? But he can't do nothing. Like you can't play him versus the run. He's not going to hold up against bigger tackles in the run game. He's going to be an issue there for at least a year or two while he builds into his body, right? On the flip side, you have Sam Williams, who's not bendy. He's not a freak like that, but he has decent get off. He's got good speed. He will set an edge much better. He's got a grown man's body. He looks like Micah Parsons. So say they're both there. Do you prefer the put him in on 3rd down and go get the quarterback? Or would you rather have a guy that can, like a Chauncey Golston type, but with the pass rush upside of Sam Williams?
I agree 100% what you said. Benito, I think he's a pass rush specialist only at the next level for the first few years anyway. And I kind of saw Sanders the same way. Super light guys who are kind of like a tweener, almost between a Sam and a rush in. But, to me, if Sam Williams didn't have that kind of athleticism, if he was going to be another Chauncey Golston, I was like, okay, we kind of already have that. But I think Sam can be trained. He can be tall up a little bit. Like I said, you can't learn bend, but he can get a little better. He can get a little more flexible. And I'll take that, I think, over the guy who's so light that you're going to be just using him on a couple downs a game, if that makes sense. But that's my opinion. I know a lot of people probably have Benito a lot higher. I think Kavanaugh likes him a lot, but I would take either one, to be honest. But Benito's already gone at 83, so I just kind of took the best of what was left there to fill that edge role.
Yeah, that's man. People forget that not only bendy guys sack the quarterback. There's a lot of different ways to get to the quarterback. So Benito would be fun. He'd be fun to just like, hey, kick Tank inside, put Parsons right over the center, and then Benito moves over on the opposite side. Like, that could be fun. But no, I do like Sam Williams. I feel like 88's about where you have to go to get him. So, ideally, would you like to go? If you were in the ideal world, maybe you use 88, you move up, you get something else, and then Williams falls to 129 because of his off-field stuff. But I just feel he's like a little too freaky. That somebody's gonna go, no, we got to get this guy. You don't have to have elite bend to get to the quarterback. So I feel like that's a good spot. I wouldn't be, if we got Sam Williams at 88, I would be like, good pick. We got a good guy there. I wouldn't be like Nashawn Wright, where everybody's like, what the hell are we doing? I feel like you'd be like, that's a good pick. Neville Gallimore a couple years ago, where everybody was like, that's a good spot. Maybe we don't need this, right here at this. But Neville Gallimore, yeah, that works right there. I feel like that would how I would feel about Sam. That would be a good pick.
I agree. If draft day comes and there's a linebacker sitting there in the early third, if Quay Walker for some reason drops into the early third, it won't happen. But if for some reason he's still sitting there, I'm going to get him with our 3rd rounder, and you're right. Maybe I'll take a 5th and package our 4th to go up to get Sam then, and if that's the case, and if that happens, I'm gonna be ecstatic. Like, you're gonna see me blasting all over Twitter how big of a draft we're having. But that's my 2 cents on that one.
Agreed.
Well, we know that Sam Williams was brought in. He's one of the 30 visits, and he was also we saw Dan Quinn go see him there at Ole Miss at his pro day. So I think it's safe to say that Dallas would realistically draft him. Before we move on to your 4th-round pick, Zach, would you like to give us an update on your Tar Heels here?
Yeah, let's see. The second half has started. We are up 40-25 on Kansas. So this is kind of surprising. I mean, the 8th seed. I mean, we're supposed to be a bubble team. We're holding it down. So I'm pretty happy right now.
Well, go Hills, sir. So moving on. Talk to us about your 4th-round pick, Zach.
All right, and this is another one where kind of like the Pickens pick. I don't know if this will realistically happen. It's a guy I honestly was a little lower on than most when I first started diving into these prospects there. But at 129, my blinking red light, if you will, was Brandon Smith, the linebacker at Penn State. I mean, he's
Freak.
not – yes, an absolute freak, and that's what sold me. I mean, his RES is a 9.98. So a guy, just like Kenyon Green, who was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, committed to Penn State, basically linebacker if you will. I put down he's a guy who is super athletic, but he maybe does not have the processing prowess of, say, Nakobe Dean. But he's a guy that if you want to get from point A to point B really fast, I mean, he ran a 4.57 at the combine, which is pretty damn good for a linebacker. But I put down that he's work on being a better wrap-up tackler, not a shoulder tackler. In 2021 per PFF, he had a 17.2% missed tackle rate. But honestly, in our system, you got Micah there. We're going to use Jaron Curse a ton as a linebacker. So we're just looking for a complementary piece to build some depth because I'm not sold on LVE. I know, Mike, you're not either. I don't want to see a day where that's all we got there at linebacker pretty much. So I think it's somebody who could come in, play with his old running mate and Micah Parsons again, bring back the Penn State days, and I'm all for it. I mean, I really like Troy Anderson too. He was already gone. So was Chanel. Is it Lucetta? How you pronounce the other guy from Penn State?
That's correct.
He was already gone, and Bernard from Baylor, he was gone too. So I was slim pickings there, looking for a linebacker, and that's the guy that was left standing. I think he'd be a good fit.
So it sounds like when we talk about the athleticism, that's a good value pick. But am I crazy to say that you were kind of drafting for need because you mentioned our linebacker core, lack thereof?
You were, and this is the one pick I really faltered on a little bit there because there's a couple guys left that were there in other positions. I liked Luke Fortner, the center at Kentucky, was sitting there. So I could definitely see the Cowboys saying, you know what, let's add some competition there for the badass, if you will.
Yeah.
Braxton Jones, a tackle, he was still sitting there. And Jalen Watson, that corner that a lot of people like because of his size and length, he was still sitting there. So I think I'd be okay with any one of those guys. But I was looking at the list of guys still available at linebacker, and it gets really scarce, to be honest, after the 3rd round. So if we're going to add a guy to fill out our linebacker room, I think we have to do it by round 4, or there's nobody left there. And I think you noticed that too with the Cowboys list of 30 invites. I think Quay Walker is like the only one that's highly ranked that's on their list. Everybody else, besides the guy from Utah, he was on there too. But other than that, it's pretty late round guys, really. But in this case, yeah, I had to snatch up Brandon Smith.
So, I know that you mentioned this was kind of more of a need pick here, Zach. But when you look at Brandon Smith, linebacker to Penn State, what is it about him more so that you like more than Jalen Weidemeyer, tight end, who could also be a need, or a Max Mitchell, the offensive tackle out of Louisiana?
Man, that tight end, I know his tape is good, but I'm not taking a tight end even in the 4th round that runs like an offensive lineman, to be honest. I mean, to me, his body type, you look at him, he's like the guy you won't come off the bus first. He's just big, wide, stout guy. Like, oh yeah, that's a NFL tight end right there. You think he'd probably be a good inline guy, but I don't know if he doesn't care about blocking, or if he hasn't. I don't know. The guy does not block, right? So if you're going to be 250, 260 pounds, and you can't block, and you're going to drop out and then just play in the slot, but he's too slow. Like, you can't be that slow and play in the slot every time. So to me, he's somebody I could see them having interest in. Obviously, they bring him for a 30 visit, I believe, but I'm kicking the tires on him late 5th. Somewhere in the 7th, maybe. Like, that's it. I'm not taking him any sooner than that because, to me, I like a lot of the other tight ends a lot better. Jelani Woods, I love him. Charlie Kohler, I like him a lot. Ruckert, the guy out of Ohio State. I'm interested in him. Cade Otton. There's a ton of guys in that third and fourth range, all the way to the fifth that I would much rather have over Watermeyer. I mean, which is funny because up till before last year's draft, I always do those way too early, mocks and stuff. And like my guy for last year's draft, a year early, was Micah Parsons. I was like, man, if that guy would ever drop to us, I would be ecstatic. And bam, that happened. And then last year, this time, I was like, man, that tight end of A&M, he would be a solid fit for us. I would love to have him on this team. And I think a lot of people were on that same boat there. I mean, they were like, man, this guy's like a first rounder. But
my tight end one was Watermeyer. He was my tight end one off tape coming in to the offseason. And then I don't know what happened. And I'm with you. I mean, how could you take him out before the 6th round? Like, I don't see how you could. Now, you could get like an ultimate steal. Maybe he's just not a testing guy. And when he gets out in the game, he's great. But this is the draft. You can't draft like that. You gotta look at it and go, we can't get him this early.
I'm 100% with you on that. I mean, if we get to day 3 and like Ruckert, Otten, Jelani Woods, all those guys are gone, like people snatch him up early, which is a possibility. Kohler, if he's gone too, then sure, I'll listen. Late day 3, I'll listen to it, but he's not my first choice by any means, which is the total opposite way I felt about him this time last year. So it's amazing. He's tanks. He's totally tanks.
Well, Mike, out of Max Mitchell and Brandon Smith, I mean, who of those two, who would you have taken?
Man, it's crazy. I to start off this thing, let me just say, I hated Brandon Smith. He sometimes looks like he's playing soccer. Like he doesn't know what he's doing. Like I watch him, I'm like, man, I can't take this guy before like day forever. And I believe another one of our guys, Kavanaugh, talked about the same thing early on. He's like, he just doesn't he doesn't know what he's doing out there. Like legitimately on another planet sometimes. Processing wise, he misses a lot of tackle. Then I started to think like, because if you take his talent, size, speed, athleticism, he's top 20. Legitimately like freak azoid. So I said, how much do I trust Dan Quinn? That's what I told myself. So how much do I trust Dan Quinn? I said, say they get there, and like you said, linebacker slim, Williams goes, Benito goes. They get to that 3rd round pick, and they're like, well, we have Curse for a couple years. We have Parsons for another 4. LBE is only 1 year. We have Cox for another 3 years. Do we need another linebacker that bad? And they say, you know what? This guy's an athletic freak. We can pair him with this group we have. Would I kill them if they drafted him at 88? And I said, man, I would. He needs time. He needs to learn, but he could be a special teamer. We have depth. I wouldn't kill him if they draft him at 88. He's that kind of freak athlete. So if you can get him at 129, I think now you've valued it correctly. That's about where you're like, well, really, shit, for the risk reward. At 129, who cares if he ends up stinking? Like, look at some of the picks that you make around then. Charles Tapper was a pick around that. You never even saw him. He was injured all the time, never played. Like, you can't live and die by these day 3 picks. Then you get somebody like Cox, somebody like Dak Prescott. Something like that falls on you, and you go, well, now it's just the value's too good. I believe this is the perfect spot for Smith. If you landed him there, you're taking a swing for a home run. You're like, I'm going to go for it all. And if I strike out, who cares? We were up 17 runs with the pick you're taking. So I love that pick there. And it's just funny because when I started watching the tape, I think I disliked him because you're sitting there going, if you just knew how to do anything, like you're so talented. So I'm interested to see what Dan Quinn could do with him. I honestly, he's one of the guys I hope we get now. And it's such a weird transition, and it shows how much I like Dan Quinn. So I'm with you, Zach. I feel like you nailed the spot for him. Like right here is hit the home run. Go for it all. Swing for it all. Sometimes you strike out. Randy Gregory, if we were to sign him for the 5-year deal, that 2nd-round pick looks great. Now we lost him. You're like, probably wasn't worth that 2nd-round pick. Same thing could happen with this in the 4th round, but I like the value here.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned the special teams too, because your stars are not playing special teams as a linebacker. You need guys to play that. And you imagine a linebacker who is 6'3", 250, and running a 4.57 down the field to make a tackle. If he wraps up, he would be awesome on special teams. And like you said, I think you can teach the scheme to this guy. You can put him in the spots to learn how to be in the right places at the right times. But you can't teach that speed. You can't teach that athleticism. So give me that ball of clay. I think Dan Quinn will look at that the way too.
If you put a brain if Dan Quinn can insert his football knowledge into Smith, he's Micah Parsons. He looks like him. He's physical like him. He runs like him. He can even do some edge stuff. He even has that ability. He's not a defensive end type, but if you put him off and blitz him, he can do that. He just has to have this hit. If this hits and he works, my good, that linebacker core, you could just say, hey, Kirsch, you're just going to be strong safety. Just go. Because you'd have Cox, Smith, and Parsons would be disgusting.
Stupid athleticism. And to make a quick Mortal Kombat reference, Jax, he had that big metal arm there, steel arm. Well, that's we need that brain. If you could take a brain and like a computer, insert it in his head, bam, you're good to go.
It's well worth the 4th round pick for that. I'll take Dan Quinn trying to get into that special athlete's head at that spot.
Well, again, it sounds, I'd imagine this is realistically, especially in this round, that Dallas would draft here. So, Zach, talk to us about your 5th round pick.
Sure thing. And then in the 5th, man, there's some good guys still left available there. I'm not going to lie to you. Romeo Doubs there. Is that how you say his last name, Doubs? The wide receiver there in Nevada.
I think it's
he was
French.
there.
I'm not going to miss that.
I was scared too, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to go for it. But Dare Rosenthal, that tackle at Kentucky, or some people are, I don't know, he's all over the place. He's kind of like the guy too that has all the traits but hadn't put it together. Cam Jurgens, that center that a lot of people were putting down their mocks, he was still there. Cole Turner, the tight end, all those guys are still available. And I was like, man, this is a tough one. But I kind of went into Stephen Jones mode. I'm not going to lie to you. I think Stephen Jones is looking at our corner room right now. He's like, okay, we got some good depth there, but he's like, cap space. And you're looking at Anthony Brown's $5 million cap hit this year. He's like, I wonder if I can replace that guy with somebody who's comparable and save us a little bit of money possibly for next year. So Kobe Bryant was sitting there, and I was like, he's not a guy who had a lot of clout coming into college. Going to Cincinnati as a 3-star recruit, but he's a guy who, obviously had to play as the other guy across from Sauce Gardner, and he held his own. I was impressed. I think if you look back at his tape from 1920 and then 21, he's really improved the last 3 years. And he's kind of, I guess, some of that swag that Sauce has kind of rubbed up on him a little bit there. He didn't mind, playing up on those guys. I think he had a really good game against Alabama. And I think even though he's not a great athlete, he's got good size. He's like 6'1", just shy of 200 pounds. He's like 193 pounds. But I think he would do great in Dan Quinn's cover 3 scheme. He's a guy that I could definitely see drop back in the zones, and you have no worries just matching up. And if you told me again, we talked about that potential trio of Pickens and Lamb and Gallup. If you told me we could have Bryant, Diggs, and Kellen Joseph, I'll take that all day. That's a good solid trio of corners there. I will say the one knock on him, though, will be arm length from Dan Quinn, because I know he's a big-time arm length guy, so I went back and looked, and they're only 30.5 inches, so just shy of that threshold. But in the 5th round, it's a lottery ticket at this point. If you get a guy that can really D up somebody on the outside, you're good to go. I think his go ahead.
Sorry, Zach. Do you know his height and vert?
6'1", his vert I don't have down. I should have, but I know he ran a 4.55 40, which isn't blazing by any means. But that's why I think he's kind of limited. He's going to be just a cover 3, pretty much corner. I think in the next level, because he's not a guy you want out there just on the island or anything. But I think he'd be solid in this game.
Well, Zach, you look at that Cincinnati defense from this past year, and looking at Kobe Bryant missing Sauce Gardner, there's a lot of good defensive players there. So I think it's safe to say, like you mentioned, the 5th round, it's a lottery ticket here, so that's good value. But again, looking at the players available, was this not necessarily a need pick, but you look at the cornerbacks. We still have Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, Trayvon Diggs, Kelvin Joseph, Nashawn Wright. So this wasn't really a need, but what was your reasoning behind this pick here?
I just think it's something you can never have too many corners, to be honest. And I know we've got a pretty solid stable here, but I think in the 5th round, I was kind of torn between him and Juergens. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was worried that the Cowboys, and they didn't have a lot of that. They brought in some of those guys at center there, but to me, if you get a chance to get a potential starter who might take over for Anthony Brown at next year, the year after, something like that, this you got to play the long game. When you got Stephen Jones there, who's I know that a lot of people have mentioned too, when you've got an owner and GM or their job's not on the line by any means, they can afford to take some picks like this, or guys you can develop and be potential starters. And I see that when I look at Bryant. I see him being a potential starter at some point. So I'll take it. 5th round, sign me up.
So I'm looking at a couple of guys here. I'm looking at Monteric Brown, cornerback out of Arkansas, and you mentioned Romeo Doubs, wide receiver out of Nevada. I said, what is it about Kobe Bryant that you like more than both those guys?
Dubs, I love his speed. But I think it'd be kind of, if we took him, it'd be like James Washington all over again. He does not have a very diversified route tree. If you watch his tape, he's a speed guy. That's what he does. He just takes off and sling the ball. I mean, Nevada, that's all he did. If you look at their tape, all he did was sling the ball, and he got a ton of catches. He kind of reminds me of in Green Bay's offense, how they fed the ball to I'm drawing a blank now.
Lazard or
yes, yeah, Adams. Like it reminded me of the Adams situation because he got so many targets in that offense. And I think in this case, you already got James Washington. They feel pretty comfortable with him. We already took Pickens earlier. I was like, I wouldn't want to double dip that early, but I could see it being a possibility by the Cowboys. But to me, I really have a more shifty slot guy who can run a more full route tree. That's Calvin Austin. I love Calvin Austin. If you could get him, he won't be there in the 5th, but if you could get him, something like that, I think that you can line up in the slot, whatever, kind of do all kinds of little gadget plays for him. I really had somebody like that to complement Pickens more so than just a straight 9-route guy. But Juergens would be a good pick. You couldn't go wrong with that either. There were some. This is where I really struggled, I think, in the 4th and 5th round because there's a lot of guys there left who I had interest in, and there was no blinking light necessarily. But yeah, you can talk me in any of these guys, to be honest.
Mike, the 3 guys I mentioned, who do you like out of Kobe Bryant, Monteric Brown, and Romeo Doubs?
I just want to tell you there was no vert on Kobe Bryant. I looked it up. It took me a second because it was like Kobe Bryant's vertical, and I'm like, not that one. I know him. I would take Kobe Bryant, Cincinnati. It amazes me how many. I know Sanders, and I know Sauce Gardner, and there was another player, not Muma. Who's the linebacker from Cincinnati? Blanking, but all of them talked about, who's a player on your team, that's really good, that isn't, and everybody to a man was like Kobe Bryant, like him on the outside out there, really. But because of Sauce Gardner, he didn't really get that attention that a lot of people think he deserved. I wouldn't worry about him on the outside at all. The question would be, do we have an issue with Boss Man moving inside? I think he has plenty of talent to do it. I got killed for saying that. I got killed for that. And let me just say, at 155, I took Cam Juergens because he was on Cowboys 30 prospect list. And somebody on Twitter was like, Cam Juergens ain't going to be there. And I'm like, okay, like it's pick 155, dude. Is that really what you're going through my mock draft and going, hey, idiot, Cam Juergens is going to be there at 155. I just told him, all right. And he's like, is that sarcastic? I'm like, I don't know. What do you want me to say? It's pick 155. The guy was there. I took him because he was on the 30 list and we could use some center depth. We don't know if Beata's is going to be there past the next season. So, or, 2023 season. So, I would definitely go Kobe Bryant. I love him in Quinn's system. A good thing about him is Quinn plays a lot of man, and I believe he has that type of ability. He's not just going to be a zone guy because he's tall and lengthy. He can play some man coverage, and Quinn kind of transitioned to more of a man defense last year. So I like him. Man, you killed your first draft, Zach. And I know people are going to go, well, the needs are so defined. We obviously need a left guard. We obviously need a wide receiver, but that doesn't mean you can't F it up. You really can. So, you overthink it and you let things slip the wrong way and you get stuck. So I think you did a good job.
I think the one position that I didn't get in my top five, I took him later. I got one, but I think the Cowboys will value a tight end a lot higher than I had in this draft. I think we could definitely see that. Might be the 4th round pick, could be the first 5th round pick, but they'll definitely take a tight end, I think, over something like this. But which I'm fine with. I'm not sold on us getting a long-term deal done with Schultz, so I can see them doing that. Getting us a tight end 2, possibly the tight end 1 next year.
I can totally see 88 being about the tight end, and then them using 129 to go get either the linebacker that you picked, or if Williams is dropping, Sam Williams is dropping, go get him with moving a 5th and 129 up, maybe back into the end of the 3rd round or up into the first couple of picks of day 3 and getting one of them. I totally could see that happening.
Well, it sounds like, again, what we're talking here in the 5th round, and a guy like Kobe Bryant, it's safe to say that Dallas will realistically take a chance on this guy. And Mike, it sounds like you really like this pick here. So before we get to the grade, Zach, tell us about the rest of your picks before Mike takes you to pieces.
Yeah, not the ride the Cincinnati train, but my next 5th round pick, I took Brian Cook, the safety out of Cincinnati, which to me, I was laughing at some of these other guys, how the rankings were all over the place on him, but look at Brian Cook's rankings on a couple different sites. If you get bored here, if you have some trouble sleeping tonight or something, because this guy, where did I have him down? Let's see. Brian Cook, let me see. On PFF for top 150, ranked 101. CBS has him at 57. Draft Network here obviously has him at 79, and Dan Brugler had him at 86. So all over the place. So if I could somehow get him at 167, where Draft Network had him available to me, I'll turn that pick in about 5 seconds, because he's a safety. Yeah, Cowboys don't really value the position. Yeah, we got our 3 we feel comfortable with, but he's very versatile. He's not amazing as a single high safety. He's a deep safety. He's not an amazing in box safety, but he's good at both, in my opinion. I think you can play him either spot, and you're not going to be let down by him. So I think if you get a 6'1", 206-pound safety who had a 87.6 PFF grade last year, I'll take him. That secondary for Cincinnati is no joke, and I think that's one of the things I like too about Kobe so much is you watch them. They're all the time talking to each other in the secondary, and I think we've been missing that since the Barry Church days. I know Barry Church wasn't the most amazing athlete, but I think he kept everybody where they're supposed to be lined up at. And I think between Cook and Bryant, I won't worry about that anymore. So I snatched Cook up there, 167, and then I followed that up with and again, don't let me butcher this name. The Arizona State tackle, Kellen, is it Dish? How do you say his name?
Don't ask me that one.
So this is a guy who, again, I know I mentioned with Linderbaum, I think he's the best fit in a zone system. But for a swing tackle, the guy's 6'7", 301, so really tall, carries the weight well, though, but he's a great athlete. His RES was a 975. So if you're going to take a chance in the 5th round on a guy you might can develop as a swing tackle, maybe add a little strength to him, I'm taking him. He ran a 4.89 40 at the combine, which, that's like your goal. I think if you run a 4.95 or less as an offensive lineman, that's great. And he ran a 4.89. He also had a 32.5-inch vertical, so the guy's got explosion. His arm length is 32 1/4, which isn't great, but for a swing guy, I'll take it. I'll take it all day. I think with our tackle situation there, we don't know we have him Ball. He basically had a redshirt year. We haven't seen him take a snap yet. Tyron, he's going to get hurt. You're going to see about, 2-3 games, at least a year. He's going to miss. And now, since we willingly got rid of Collins, who you got? Your swing tackle is starting now. So you're going to depend on Ball to come in or take another guy just in case. So I think we'll definitely take a tackle somewhere in this draft along with guard. I don't know what round it'll be in, but in this case, if this guy falls all the way to the 5th, sign me up. PFF has him as his number 72 ranked player, and then Draft Network has him as their 190th. So I have no idea where he'll actually get taken come April 29th, 30th, whenever he goes. But Yeah, I'm snatching him up late fifth. And just to speed up, I'm sorry, guys, but at 178, Charlie Kohler, he was there. That's my tight end. I love that guy. I mean, I know he's not the great. I mean, he's never going to be a stupid athlete like, um, but I think he gets open. He reminds me of Jason Witten a little bit. He just knows how to fall in those soft zones. He knows how to get open. And the guy catches the ball. His wingspan is stupid. I wish I wrote down actually what it was, but he's 6'7", 250 pounds, 34.5-inch arms. So definitely got the length and size requirements we like, 10-inch hands. So I just think that a guy who can complement Dalton Schultz, be a red zone threat, which we currently don't have much of. I mean, you think if we somehow walked out of this draft and had Kohler, we already took Pickens, I mean, jump ball city in the end zone, which I think is going to be something we've really struggled with the last few years. We get in the red zone and we just kind of stall out a lot of times. We need some guys to get the ball to help Dak out a little bit because let's be honest, he's not the most accurate quarterback. And I know that'll be a whole other soapbox for another draft show there. But in this case, man, yeah, Kohler this late, I'll take him. Especially, like I said, we're not committed, honestly. I mean, we're not trying to negotiate with Schultz, from what I've heard, to get a long-term deal done. So if we're going to let him play out the tag, we better have another guy lined up and take his spot. So with him, McEwen, that's not a bad trio there of tight ends we got going in next year, especially for a position that takes so long to develop. I mean, you don't want to wait until you actually need one to take one. So, yeah, Charlie Kohler, 178. And then my last pick, which, again, I mean, you're talking about people being all over the board on the D tackle at LSU, Neil, is it Farrell or Farrell? So I apologize again. So I should have brushed up on the names there before I dove in. But a guy who's 6'4", 330 pounds, had a good PFF grade, 89.8. His RES sucked. So if you're looking for an athlete, play one tech. This is not your guy. But I mean, in the sixth round, I mean, right now, to be honest with you, we don't have a one tech on the roster besides Bahana, right? So if you need somebody just to rotate in to play the run, a guy that has a little bit of pass rush ability, I think it was weird. They played him a little bit at a 3 and a little bit of 1 last year. If you watch some of their stuff, he kind of played both roles. But I think with us, yeah, he could just be a one tech and just hold down the line there. I'm taking him. I mean, we need one bad on the roster, so it's kind of a need pick. But when you get in the sixth round, I mean, what do you got left? I mean, I'll take a guy who's 330 pounds that late in the draft.
Absolutely. You know, look at the depth of this class, Zach. It's almost like there's 150 top 100 players here.
Oh, yeah, I believe it. I mean, and again, he was number 113 on PFF's top 150, but Draft Network has him at 241. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, I've seen people taking him in the 4th round, some taking him in the 7th round. You never know where he's going to go at. But he had 19 hurries last year, which is not bad. It only had 1 sack, but he did have 4 quarterback hits. So the guy gets to the quarterback some. He's in the action. I mean, I'll take that and try to develop him up. If you can get Gallimore and this guy and man, that's not a bad rotation. I mean, for our D-line.
All right, Zach, here comes the hard part. Mike, you got to grade this draft. Did we fill needs, and what positions, in your opinion, still need to be addressed?
All right, so it's hard how do you give that draft a bad grade? Like starting left guard, starting wide receiver, developmental edge rusher, linebacker for special teams in his first year, probably best you can ask. Kohler, I mean, I'm going through the whole thing. Tight end, like he said, the minute Gallup went away and we had no jump ball guy, we had issues. And you're doing good. You got down by 6, but they scored 4 straight, so it's a 2-point game.
God, I know we're blowing this thing.
You're getting to we're gonna get you out of here quick so you can see the last 8. I got to give that draft. I mean, what I don't want to go. I'm gonna go 8. I don't want to go too crazy because I would like to get maybe a tight end in there, a little bit more help out of the first 4 for Dak. But I mean, you did get one later. I'll go A-. Maybe I'm gonna say this. The first draft we did last time, Kevin Du Bois, I believe it was, I gave him a B+, and I said, you know, it's early on, so I gotta be. His draft might have been the best one of the. I mean, he nailed Osa Odigizua. He and I was like, I don't want this undersized 3 tech. No, I was wrong. So early on, I'm trying to go light on grade, but I love this draft. So, but I want to see if somebody can maybe sneak a tight end earlier and maybe get one of these the guys late. So I'm gonna go A-. I really like it. I also like that you got me a trash can full of dirt. We need to bring back Brent Urban, like urgently need to do that. So yeah, I like the draft, Zach, man. I think you killed it. And I understand that it's going to be hard to grade bad on this because Dallas is done in free agency. They've kind of set you up to go get your left guard, get your wide receiver, and you're doing good from there, you know? But you got two real, like you got the left guard that I really want, and you got the wide receiver in the second that I really want. So it's hard for me not to give it an A. And I may adjust this going in by the end. I want the right to readjust after I've seen all the drafts. But initially, I'm going to give you an A-.
Hey,
that's awesome. I was shooting for a B, so I'll take an A-. But
even Cook plays a split safety better than he does the cover 3, but he has the ability to do cover 3. Like their system was more split safety, but he can do that, and I think he has athleticism too. So I like the safety depth. I like the tight end you got. I love the starters that we needed. I like the defensive depth you got because our defense is pretty good. Sans a middle linebacker and a one technique. And so you're trying to get depth at the spot that you're getting. Get another D in. Get a linebacker that can play. So I love it, man. I thought you killed it, Zach. And I expect nothing else. You're one of my favorite draft guys. So I expected you to kill this, and you did.
Yeah, I love the draft. This is like my favorite time of the year. I'm like a kid in the candy store when it gets to be late April. So if I could have one bonus pick, like a 7th rounder, Abram Smith, the running back out of Baylor, I think he'd be perfect because we need a potential competition there at our 3rd running back spot. And the guy played linebacker too, right? I mean, if you see his stuff, he came into Baylor, I think, as a running back, right? And they said, we need a linebacker out of you, and he played linebacker and played awesome. So you imagine that guy where as a 3rd running back, you're asked to play special teams. They got a running back and go down and make a tackle for you. Like, sign me up. Like, that's what I want. If we get a bonus pick.
He has both sides brains. He has
right.
running back brain and what is the linebacker thinking part of it too. So yeah, that's a good one. I like that kid from Baylor.
Well, Zach, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight. Before we get you out of here, can you let the people know where they can find any of your podcast articles or any other content you might be creating right now?
I honestly have not created anything. I've just been following you guys and commenting on Twitter a ton.
Appreciate that.
I would love to get into stuff more. So I appreciate you guys having me on the show. I love talking draft, love talking prospects, love just shooting the shit with you guys. So if you have any more shows you want me to contribute in, let me know.
If I have some stuff going on, and I'll tell you this: if something goes on where I need to be out for a little bit, I'll have Paul contact you, and you could step in. You can grade a draft for me if need be. But we'll talk about that after Saturday.
Sounds good.
Day.
Zach, remind the people that can find you on Twitter, sir.
Sure thing. It's basic. ZG Young 9. So pretty simple.
And Michael, while we're getting you out of here, let the people know where they can find you on Twitter.
Thanks for coming on, Zach. Get to the game at CD Piglet, guys. Nice and easy.
Guys, I'm Paul Ryan. You can find me on Twitter at Paul_Ryan15. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Go Heels.